If you know someone who is getting married or having a baby, it is likely that they have pointed you to a gift registry of sorts. That's pretty common. That's been the way that it's gone for decades and decades. If you know someone who is going through a divorce, it's probably not so likely that they've sent you a link to their registry. But after this conversation, it might be more common because it's actually a thing that I didn't know anything about until recently. We're going to focus on that topic with Olivia Howell. She is the co founder and CEO of Fresh Starts Registry. She joins us from Huntington, New York. Hello there.
Hi, Bruce. So nice to be here.
Great to have you here. Where did this idea even come from in the first place?
That is a great question and my favorite story to tell. As with many ideas, it was from my own experience, right? So I was a work at home mom. I had my own marketing agency, went through a divorce. I had two little kids. My sister, who is my co-founder, came over to my house and we cleaned out the marital residence, and half of my things were gone, right, that my ex took, and the other half were from my wedding registry and really
Mm,
emotionally charged.
mm.
So I thought, wait a second, I had a baby registry, two baby registries, and a wedding registry. This is what I need the new things, right? This is for the fresh start. And so I Googled divorce registry, and the only thing that came up were articles saying, why is this not a thing yet? So I called my sister and I said, I think we should build this. And she said, you're kind of out of your mind, but I love the idea. And at the time, she had just gotten engaged. So we were kind of living these weirdly parallel, opposite lives. Long story short, her engagement ends after the pandemic and the quarantine, and she found herself in the opposite predicament. Whereas I stayed in the marital residence and had to start fresh, she left with nothing and had to start fresh completely in an apartment by herself. And I got a phone call from her one night, and then she said, remember that idea that you had? I think this would be really helpful right now.
Wow. Wow.
So,
I can
yeah,
totally see the need. It makes
yeah.
perfect sense. How does it work in practice? So I know back in the day when I was engaged, I would go to a store with a gun, like a scanner
Yeah.
gun. We're obviously in an online shopping world now. People pick in different ways. But at Fresh Start, how do these registries then get assembled?
Absolutely great question. So, registries are really a way that you can put items on a list for people to provide you with the items that you need to begin again, right? So, whether it's in divorce and you're downsizing or you're staying in the residence, on our website, we have bundles of items that we have vetted and put together, mainly from Amazon, because Amazon is kind of, for better or worse, used by everybody. And we like to say we eliminate the overwhelm of starting over. So instead of going to a million different stores and saying, what sheets do I get for my kids for my new apartment? We have bundles based on budgets, based on rooms of the house, and based on aesthetic styles, right? So if you're like a really artsy person, you can go check out our bundle. You can go to Amazon or my registry and you can build it there. It's always free to build a registry. And we actually provide scripts for you to text the people in your life when you send the registry link out to people, because it can be really hard to ask for what you need when you're going through a divorce.
Can you give me an example of some of the nuances of how those scripts sound? Because I can imagine both on the recipient's side, there's like, how do I say this? And on
Yep.
the recipient's, or like the receiver of the email or the text, them thinking, wait a second, it's all well and good for me to support your baby. That makes sense. And your wedding, that makes sense. But a divorce, I'm not so sure, especially if I'm siding with your ex.
Right. These are all great questions. So, first of all, you don't have to send this to everybody, and you can pick and choose who you send it to. A lot of people actually share it on social media, and that's where they get the majority of their items. We don't call them gifts, we call them support items. They
Okay.
are the support that you need to rebuild your life, right? I think that divorce is still pretty shamed in a lot of parts of this world and in our own countries. And people still have a lot of moral stances on divorce, right? But when it comes down to it, a divorce is just a beginning. It's a beginning of a new life, a bit of a beginning of a new chapter, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to support the people in your life. So the scripts look like hey, I know that, you asked how you could support me during this time. Excuse me, here's a list of items that you may need, that I may need for, me and the kids as we go through this transitional time. Also, we like to give a lot of people resources on how you can support people for free. You don't have to buy them items. And also, we're not talking about big items. We're talking about a $7 shower curtain or maybe a new toothbrush holder, because often people really don't have those things.
Mm.
So, if there's not a way that you can provide the support for somebody monetarily or with an item, you can help them Google search things. You can help them find a lawyer or an expert. But we always like to say when you can change the things around you change. And it's really beautiful to see the people in your community come together to support you during this big life change.
How do you make your money as a company?
That's a great question. So my background and my sister's background is in marketing and business development and PR. I still have a marketing agency that we've had for almost 20 years. And we decided what we love to do best is support small businesses. So we have, excuse me, Long Island.
Do you want to just take a second? Do you have water with you? Yeah, it's totally fine for you to have a little sip of your frappuccino.
It's the Long Island allergy season. We decided early on that what we wanted to do was make sure we never charged people who are going through a divorce. So all of the support for people going through a divorce is totally free. We have free ebooks, tons of free resources. I provide free consultations for people myself going through a divorce. So how do we make money? We have a beautiful expert guide of experts, and experts can pay $25 to $55 a month for 2 memberships. And we provide them with referrals, a place on our website, and also business coaching, PR support, podcasts, and so much more. So we make our money on the expert side, and that way we never have to charge people who are going through the divorce.
I want to come back to these bundles for a second. They're targeted. Can you give us a couple more examples of the names of those bundles, the sort of things that people would be thinking about, and what the ballpark would be on the total cost? I mean, kids' bedroom. Most of us as parents, we didn't go out and buy a whole bedroom. We might have bought a bed, and then a bit later we bought sheets, and we didn't have to replicate a household overnight.
I love that you mentioned the children's bedroom because that was something that was really personal to me.
Yeah.
So when I am thinking about these bundles, we really take it from a user perspective of what is the realistic person who's going through this? Who is that mom in the middle of the night Googling how to start over again? So our bundles have a huge range. We have a $99 bundle. The top items that we know people are adding to the registries based on Amazon links are towels, sheets, plates, cups, utensils, right? All of those things that you really need to run a household. We have a $99 bundle. We have a $250 bundle.
Mm.
We have, based on the rooms of the house, really the essentials, right? So sheets for the bedroom, pots and pans. And then for the children's room, we know that a lot of women, especially, are downsizing and they're moving to smaller apartments, but they want to make it feel really homey for their kids. But they only have 2 hands to build things. So we want to make sure that it's really accessible for everybody. So toy chest, sheets that are fun, stickers for the walls, a really great way to make everything homey. That being said, people do add really awesome things to the registries. We've had people add disco balls. We've had people add underwear. We've had people add pirate flags because it's really it's a reclaiming of your joy when you can
Sure.
pick out things for your registry.
That's great. A disco ball. I love it. You
Yep.
mentioned moms a couple of times. You were
Yeah.
a mom. There are often a dad here on the other side of it.
Yep.
What have you noticed in terms of the gender difference? So I think statistically, it is more common for the female in a heterosexual relationship to stay put, not exclusively the way that it goes, but just maybe more common. What have you noticed in terms of the engagement for the dads and the friends of the dads on these divorce registries?
It's such a great question. Things are shifting for sure, right? We're in a different economical space than we were just even 4 years ago when we started this. So you're right, Bruce. 4 years ago, a lot of women were staying in the marital residences. Now it's shifting, right? People are having to sell the house, and both people usually downsize to apartments or smaller locations. So when it comes to it, we definitely have men who build registries. I personally consult with men and connect them to experts. We have a lot of male experts and male divorce coaches, but there's still a lot of stereotypes and narratives around men asking for help and
Mm.
support. So it is primarily a lot of women who come to us, but we are open, we are inclusive to everybody. And we do want to make sure that if a dad is going through this fresh start, he has the items that he needs for his children's room and his kitchen
Mm.
and, a way that he can support. We have wonderful co-parenting coaches. So we're definitely here for the family's fresh start as a whole.
As you mentioned off the top, you're talking about a fresh start. And one of the ways that manifests is post divorce, but there are a lot of other fresh starts that people can experience in their lives. What are some other examples of where you feel registries could make sense, even if they're not, a part of our discourse today?
Yeah, well, so we titled the company Fresh Start because we know that fresh starts beget fresh starts, right? And there's many, many life transitions that we want to be here for people, not just babies and weddings. We have had people make registries for when they have a book come out and it's their first time as an author,
Hmm.
when they're coming out, when they are transitioning, when they have a job loss sometimes, or when they are moving from an office to a work at home situation. And oftentimes after a bout with mental illness, when people have to kind of restart and revive their life again. They
Hmm.
need items, and the people in their life really do want to support them. We like to say we bridge the gap between the helpers and the people who need to be helped, find each other, and support everybody at the same time.
Right. It's interesting. It makes me think of Meal Train, one of the
Yeah.
supports there for people who are going through an illness.
Yep.
Very interesting stuff. Olivia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bruce.
Olivia Howell is co founder and CEO of Fresh Start Registry. She was here to talk about something that I'd never heard of called a divorce registry.